Hello, and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. My name is Cecilia, and on behalf of OTC Markets, we're very pleased you've joined us for our next live presentation from Callinex Mines. Please note, you can submit questions in the box to the left of the slides. You can also view a company's availability for one-on-one meetings through the Schedule Meetings tab found on the conference platform. At this point, I'm very pleased to welcome Max Porterfield, President, CEO, and Director of Callinex Mines, which trades on the OTCQX Best Market under the symbol CLLXF and on the TSXV under the symbol CNX. Welcome, Max.
Hi, good afternoon, good morning to everyone that's joined us today, and thanks again for taking the time to learn about Callinex Mines. Again, I'm President and CEO of the company since 2014, and here to discuss our flagship discoveries at our Pine Bay project in Manitoba, as we have a broader portfolio beyond that in the Maritimes, which we won't touch on today. Here are the forward-looking information for quick readers about some of the statements I'll make about plans and objectives moving forward. And for those that are new to the company, Callinex Mines has a long history of successful discovery within the Flin Flon Greenstone Belt of northern Manitoba. It's one of the most prolific volcanogenic massive sulfide deposits belts in the world. And these VMS deposits are known to being high grade and polymetallic. The company actually dates back to 1927 when a man named Jack Callinan staked some claims in this area of the world. A number of economic discoveries occurred within the portfolio. And then in 2011, Callinan Mines split into two entities, creating Callinex, the company that exists today on the exploration front. And as again I mentioned earlier, I briefly, when we joined in 2014, there was a big shift in management team with a renewed focus on exploration for these type of high-grade copper, gold, silver, and zinc-rich deposits in Flin Flon, as well as we broaden the portfolio with some assets we won't get today to Eastern Canada in both the Bathurst and the Buckens districts. They're mining districts that are really also well known for these deposit styles. And at Pine Bay, we've had a number of discoveries at the property, both in 2020, 2022, and 2023, and published a maiden resource recently, which we'll discuss as we get into this presentation further. Before doing so, real quick overview on the cap structure of the company. There's no debt on the balance sheet. Very tight structure with just 17.1 million shares outstanding. Management owns 23%. And then we've got really strong institutional support out there with really famed and well-known resource investors, the likes of McKinsey, Altius Resource Capital Funds, 1832, SSI, to name a few, and then analyst coverage at Beacon Securities. And just really briefly touching on our team, the team is what really drives the discoveries and the success of the company. So you have to have a track record of success in that, and we do definitely have that with members of our team being key in the discovery and development of nearly half the mines in the Flin Flon district's history, and some of the largest ones. Maslowski, a member of the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame for a dozen mines in this area of the world, the largest of which is the Trout Lake mine that really carried this community for over 2 decades. Both Piquel and Vals are known for the discoveries and been credited with the discoveries of the 777 and Lawler mines, among many others. And they both won recipients of the Bill Dennis Award, which is an award given to those that make a big key discovery in North America. J.J. O'Donnell's got a vast number of years of experience in these VMS systems in Flin Flon and beyond as our exploration manager. And then Peter Jones joined us recently, about a year ago actually, and on the engineering front, he's actually the founding CEO of Hudbay, which is a mid-tier producer in close proximities to our production. And he's developed and helped finance some of the biggest mines in this area of the world. So we've got a technical team that's been credited with the discovery and development of these mines and looking to achieve that with the discoveries at our Pine Bay property that we're discussing today. So our Pine Bay project, again, has many emerging discoveries. There's 3 that are emerging right now, and we've got another target area that we're very keen on. The property lies in close proximity to existing infrastructure in the town of Flin Flon, where there's an idle mill that's on care and maintenance. And then a key to that is the workforce in the community that's really seen mining, knows mining, and is supportive of mining, and actually really depends on their mining for livelihood. So we're located not too far away, and then our property benefits from some key infrastructure that I'll touch on as well. And overall in the Flin Flon district that I've been mentioning, this is an area of the world that's seen 32 mines going back a century. And more recently in 2022, the shutdown of the flagship mine that was operating in the community, 777, really led to a lot of job losses in the community. And that's one of the key drivers for us and opportunities in many ways, is finding the mine to meet the needs of this local community, because there's a lot of support for mining because of the vast history of mining, and Flin Flon is really built on mining. So again, that's critical to really our path and why we're here. Our most advanced discovery on the site is our Rainbow deposit. And Rainbow is, we'll get into more detail here, but it's one of the newest discoveries in Flin Flon within 30 kilometers in over 3 decades. To put a resource on it, it is a significant resource, very, very high grade. So we just announced a maiden resource last July 2023. This comes on the heels of the initial discovery hole in Rainbow in 2020. That resource came out at 3.44 million tons of 3.59% copper equivalent, and of that, over 3% of that's copper. So again, we're known for very high grade rich copper that also carries gold, silver, and zinc as a byproducts. So to kind of give you a comparison on that, the global average grade of mined copper around the world is less than 0.5%. And our grades at Pine Bay in the indicated category of this Rainbow deposit is north of 3%. If you want to look at where around the world you really get these kind of deposits that have this kind of rich grades, it's really known to be in the Central Africa and the DRC, where you're getting grades really on average between 2 to 3% copper, and in some instances, the richest copper mine in the world in the DRC is about 6% copper, operated by Ivanhoe Mines. But in terms of Flin Flon and our Rainbow discovery and other pipeline discoveries we have behind that, again, we're in a safe jurisdiction and we have those type of high comparable grades. And then the infrastructure being in place really aids to that. So in terms of a location, the 777 mine and processing facility is located in the community in the town. You can kind of see that in the icon off to the left of the slide, top left. And then our Pine Bay project that you can see to the east there, to the right of the slide, encompassed in red, is where our property is located. And you can see the icons that represent the number of discoveries there. So Pine Bay is located 16 kilometers away as a crow flies from the town of Flin Flon. There's all-weather existing road access that gives you direct access to the property and the deposits year-round, which is absolutely key. We also benefit, you can see highlighted in the dark black line around our Pine Bay project, is a mineral lease. So this provides for advanced permitting. You need a water license and environmental permits to go with a mineral lease before you can go into construction, and that was something that's been intact since the mid-1960s when this was originally permitted. So it's a big benefit. And then on top of that, water is on site, of course. There's a lot of lakes that are prevalent with these type of deposits out in Manitoba. And then lastly, the hydroelectric power line that you can see running over the property. It actually runs within 200 meters of Rainbow, and I'll show you an aerial of that in a moment. So you've got everything in place that really aid a fast tracking of a mineral discovery to a production decision with, again, a permitting regime in place in Manitoba, a situation where economic development is encouraged and is necessary right now with the recent shutdown of that mine in the community. And then again, our high-grade discoveries that are emerging where they're located with direct road access to the community. So the reason why we focused our exploration efforts on here, and this is going to be a really simple geology lesson real quick, is that the property encompasses a large package of what's known as felsic rocks, and that's host rock to these high-grade deposits. And so you can see that in yellow. And there's the largest mapping of this type of rock in the entire belt is located at our Pine Bay property that we largely encompass. And by comparison, in the town of Flin Flon, where you can see those three black dots, that's where the largest mines in the camps are in a much smaller felsic package. So again, we've been led by geology here. Exploration goes on the property going back a century, and now we've used a new approach both from the advancement in geology and understanding these deposit styles, as well as advancements in different geophysical tool sets that help aid the different discoveries at our Pine Bay property that we're going to go into. So this is Pine Bay, and jumping out, you can see it is flat topography. The Rainbow deposit sits right in the center there. There's actually, I forgot to mention, a historic headframe and shaft that is due off to the right of that. And then there's the Pine Bay deposit. So when we announced the maiden resource at Rainbow between the indicated and inferred categories was 4.7 million tons of high-grade copper, roughly 3% copper equivalent there, a majority of that copper. And that is a resource that's just recently published. The Pine Bay deposit that sits roughly 800 to 900 meters away from Rainbow is 1 million tons of about roughly 2.5 to 3% copper, and that is in a resource there. So between the two, we announced a 5.7 million ton resource, 4.7 million tons at Rainbow, and then an additional 1 million tons at Pine Bay. Further off to the west, there's Alchemist, which is a new discovery that we made last year in early 2022, and did some follow-up work last year. And then Descendant and Cabin off to the east, the right of the image there, is where we have our very exciting new discovery that's emerging at depth. And that's an area of the property that's seen exploration going back over a century to 1911. And we'll talk more about that as the presentation progresses here. So this is a plan view or an aerial view looking at all the discoveries over Pine Bay that I mentioned. Again, you have Alchemist, that we have a few holes into it in 2022. To the right of that, you see target area Odin. This is an area that we really are quite excited about, the potential to host another one, another deposit here based upon the geology and geochem and geophysical data that we have. And we're looking to follow up and continue to advance that the target area. And then Rainbow, you can see that sits right following that is our near surface discovery. And I'll jump in and show you a long section on Rainbow after we view this image to show you the size of Rainbow and how it plunges at depth. And then, of course, here's the Pine Bay deposit, and then Cabin. And what I'd like to highlight here is around this Cabin area in the Baker Patton deposit that you can see is an area that's going back to 1911 that's drawn exploration companies with very large targets. More recently, in the early 1990s, Placer Dome targeted 30 million tons in this area, as well as Inmet targeted 20 million tons. And for context, 30 million tons would be the second largest discovery to date in the camp's history, at about half the size of the original Flin Flon deposit, which was a giant at 62 million tons. So we've just made a discovery here, and we'll talk more about the Descendant as we come into this presentation and our follow-up plans there. So here's Rainbow. This is where we have the 4.7 million tons. Rainbow comes within 90 meters of surface, so it is a very shallow discovery relative to some of the modern discoveries out there. And a lot of these modern discoveries are emerging at depth. For example, the 777 discovery starts around 800 meters vertical depth. The Lawler mine comes within 300 meters vertical depth. It was discovered at 800 meters. And Rainbow was discovered at depth as well. We've drilled it up within 100 meters of surface, and Rainbow remains open at depth. It's near vertical and steeply dipping and plunging, as you can see from this long section. And here's a cross section as well. And you can see that there's multiple lenses of high-grade mineralization. It's very steep, dip and plunge, is very amenable to an underground mining scenario. So you can mine it potentially in a very efficient manner based upon how the deposit sits underground. And in terms of the Rainbow deposit, here's some drill core in the heart of Rainbow. This is 37 meters of 6% copper. So again, very, very high grade copper mineralization that stands out the deposit from a lot of other deposits out there. And again, infrastructure and proximity to infrastructure is absolutely key here. So I want to jump over to our brand new discovery, Descendant, and to kind of touch on something really quickly. I just want to reference the Descendant location again. So Descendant, we're going to be jumping over this where you see this cabin in Descendant Star. I'm going to show you a long section. So we're going to be coming down and looking at the side of that area, the drill holes that we've intersected in that area. And this is where our brand new discovery sits. So what we're looking at here is near surface is where you can see the cabin zone or cabin deposit. This is a small historic deposit that was found, 50, 60 years ago. And what's encouraging is the geology in the area, and it's all indicating that there was a big volcanic event. And you see that in multiple different indicators, the geology, the alteration, more technically oriented viewers. And so what you see in red at the bottom of this image is where we've started intersecting the Descendant discovery. And this discovery was made with really understanding that the deposits at Pine Bay, the ones that have been discovered to date with Pine Bay, Rainbow, Alchemist, they're all very, very steeply dipping and plunging like you saw in Rainbow. So we've just begun to intersect this at depth. We've announced DSC 111, our discovery hole, that you can see at the bottom of the image, towards the bottom there in the middle. That was the first discovery hole following up on previous holes in the area that we drilled in 2016 and 2017. And what we started hitting is very wide intervals of mineralization. And the grades are typical to what you see kind of at the top of the Rainbow deposit, and they're comparable grades. And then when we stepped out from that, which is some intersections that we've just announced recently, a couple weeks ago, DSC 112 wedge 1, we're continuing to see that wide intervals of distal or lower grade mineralization. Again, you're seeing 1.7% copper equivalent, for example, in DSC 112 wedge 1, 1.27%, 1.7%, 1.36% in that DSC 111 holes. And by comparison, when you look at the top 200 meters of the Rainbow deposit, the composite grade there is 1.5% copper equivalent. So very, very similar grades. And so what our plans are moving forward on this discovery is stepping out at depth in a systematic pattern to test the potential of this deposit. Because of that, those wide intervals, and based upon the geology and the alteration and the geophysical signature around this area, there's potential to significantly grow the resource substantially over the next coming months with a step out campaign. And that will really transition our discoveries at Pine Bay and Pine Bay project into a tier 1 asset, where you're going to have a very, very sizable high grade deposit is what we're looking for in the kind of growing towards in the future, with a long life of mine with multiple producing deposits feeding into one central production facility, whether that be in the property or utilizing some existing infrastructure in the area, as we've kind of mentioned, is potentially available to us. And so this brand new discovery is very, very exciting. And to kind of tie these things together in context is this cross section, looking at all these deposits and where they sit. And you can see again, Alchemist very steeply dipping, Rainbow the same way, Pine Bay the same way. And then again, that mineralization in those intersections representing the cabin horizon, where we started hitting the Descendant discovery at depth. And you can see that wide interval represented by that DSC 111 hole. And so with that, there's a potential for this to grow significantly at depth. We're in the midst right now of doing a survey on the property called the magnetotelluric survey. It's a geophysical tool that's used to find conductive bodies and define structures. And we're deploying this right now over the different deposits in target areas on the property that you see here. And we believe that will really aid in lowering our exploration costs moving forward, and very cost effectively help vector us towards additional high-grade mineralization as we're looking to grow the resource base through continued exploration on the property as we move forward here in 2024. And this is just jumping over to show you a long section about how these deposits are all very, very vertical and steeply plunging and dipping. Cabin, you see the intersections descending at depth. You can see how Pine Bay is vertical. The pattern is emerging of how this mineralization is coming together. And the structure, the more we get exploration work done on the property, and our team is able to use their skills, and new information comes in from the field, whether it be from this new MT survey, drill data, or lithogeochem data that's coming from the drill data aside from assay results. So again, we're just really touching the surface from an exploration potential on the Pine Bay property. It's really kind of quantify scale. I would like to overview real quickly in terms of the regional mines in the Flin Flon Greenstone Belt. So what you're seeing here is initial reserves of these historic mines, with the exception of the Lawler mines currently producing there, in red. And then the light blue is the added reserves that was discovered and added to the life of mine for the existing mines in light blue. And so you can see on typically these deposits grow in 2 to 3 times once you get underground in mining. And that's just based upon historic work that's been done on the area. That's what's kind of shown, as you can see here on this slide. And keep in mind, where our resource base kind of is relative to that at 5.7 million tons with Rainbow open at depth. And then also added on top of that, the emerging discoveries with Alchemist, as well as the emerging Descendant discovery, which will really be a focal point, a key, I think, of potential resource growth as we advance the project through further exploration here in the near future. And then, of course, as you saw, stacking of these deposits along that growth fault corridor, target area Odin holds potential to also have significant high-grade material there, based upon the data that we have there, and that just needs to be unlocked with further exploration work. So that's where we are, and that's where we're headed. Moving forward, we're planning on announcing results at the Pine Bay property for this MT survey that's underway. I think that really will be guiding for us on future exploration. We're refining our exploration campaign for 2024. The focal point of that will be on stepping out at depth on Descendant and really showing the potential of that discovery to host something significant, as we've believed and we've continued to explore that area since we've taken over the property and renewed focus there in 2014 and numerous others going back to 2011. We've got a strong team, a tight capital structure with supportive shareholder base, and really excited to see what comes. So we've got about 5 minutes or so left, and I'll take questions from the audience. But I want to also just thank everybody for taking the time to learn about the company today and what we're up to. And if you'd like to learn more, please do so by visiting our website at callinex.ca. We trade in the United States, of course, on the OTCQX, which we're grateful for hosting this event, with the ticker CLLXF. And we also have a listing in Canada, where we are located in Manitoba, is where our exploration assets are, of course, in the Maritimes. And we trade on the Toronto Venture Exchange on the ticker CNX. So with that, I'll take questions. Here, and the first question is, of the total expenditures over the last couple of years, what percentage was spent on drilling? That's actually an excellent question, and just something like we could touch on more in depth. But roughly about 85 to 90% of our entire capital spent and deployed in any given year is going to be with drilling, assaying, geophysics, or a technical team. And in Canada, when we raise capital, we're able to reduce dilution and really leverage our investor dollar in a structure called what's known as a charitable flow-through financing. And that is a structure that's set up and incentivized by the Canadian government as a tax incentive to stimulate exploration. And so when we raise money, we're able to do so at roughly a 1.8 delta. So for every dollar we receive, we get $1.8 to spend in exploration. And that really allows us to reduce our dilution. So you can go back and look at some of the financings we've done historically where we've raised money at the stock's trading at $3 as high as in the mid $5 range, and that's been really beneficial to us. And so when I say that, when we raise flow through dollars, those dollars are earmarked for exploration work on our property, and a big portion, an 80-20 split at least, if you go back and look at different fundraisings that we've completed at the company, have been in the flow through structure. So when you see that, you know that that's going to be done. And we've done a tremendous amount of drilling on the property, over 100,000 meters of drilling that's been on Pine Bay property alone. And that's not even considering the work that we've done on the Nash Creek property in New Brunswick and Superjack historically. So we drill and lead with the drill bit, and that's what's driven the resource base. We started with one drill hole on Pine Bay, and we'll continue to do so. In terms of how long our current cash balance will last, we have $2.1 million as the most recent financing. Our burn on any given month is less, roughly about $80,000. So we can maintain without any heavy exploration work for quite some time. The next question we have here is, are you minded to add to your land package near Rainbow if the opportunity arises? We're always looking for opportunities to add to the land package where that becomes available. There is some ground that we always keep our eye on our eyes on. So if a deal can be done, I think the expectations for any kind of growth in the land package or around Pine Bay or growing in Flin Flon area in general is that there won't be any required spend on any option agreement or property acquisition. That's going to be key because the focal point for exploration is going to still be on that mineral lease where we have these emerging discoveries. That'll be one. I think there'll be flexibility in terms of acquiring that property in shares as opposed to cash, so that our cash continues to be focused on drilling and advancing these discoveries, but certainly looking to potentially add to the land package. In terms of interest from other companies out there, we do keep in touch with a number of companies out there from mid-tiers to majors. When you hit discoveries like we've been hitting at Pine Bay and the potential for significant size and scale, which we believe we're onto as we advance the property, that's garnering a lot of attention. So that has absolutely been the case. In terms of another question, what are the main news items to look for over the next 12 to 18 months? Again, that's going to be the MT survey results, any kind of potential growth in the land package, and then of course drilling and drill targeting, and those results around that are going to be key to driving that. And the company historically has performed very, very well on success with the drill bit as well as on the geophysical standpoint too. I think that when investors are able to see things visually, that adds a lot of value to everybody involved, ourselves, as well as the investor universe. In terms of a planned drilling campaign for 2024 is a question that's still being worked on, and a plan will be disclosed as we kind of get things more tightened up with different areas of drilling that we focused on. And again, some of that will be dependent on results from this MT survey that I mentioned that we're working on and some geochem data results. I got a question on the cost per meter. Cost per meter range between $250 to roughly $500 a meter, depending on depth and whether we're wedging and how many wedges need to be set. But on a parent hole, you're looking at roughly $250 a meter Canadian as a cost. And then of course, any wedges kind of add to that, but then you're saving on your cutting the initial start of that hole. In many cases, you're saving up to 900 to 1,000 meters there. So with that, I don't have any time to take any other additional questions, and appreciate everyone's time today. Can feel free to reach out to us directly, sending an email to info@callinex.ca, or following up with a one-on-one meeting request that's being provided by OTCQX in this event. Again, thanks so much, and